Hello, and welcome to our PCS Grades weekly webinar. Today, we are talking about PCS employment, taking your job with you. And I'm so excited to have Stephanie Brown of the Rosie Network here with us today. I'm Lizanne Lightfoot. I'm the Senior Content Editor at PCS Grades. Happy to be a host here on the show. And I'm a published author. I'm a mom of 5 kids. And I've also lived at 6 different military bases. But today I will share that I have only been employed, and that was self-employed, at 3 of them. And here is my wonderful co-host, Tessa Robinson.
I'm Tessa Robinson. Thanks, Lizanne. I am a guest content creator for PCS Grades and have held a host of different consulting positions over the years, as we all do, trying to find our way through this life. And I'm very excited to be here with Stephanie. I've been a longtime fan of yours, so I'm so excited for you to tell us all about the Rosie Network and what you've been doing and how we can get folks more involved. And I do have to tell everyone in the audience that I am a diehard KU basketball fan. And so I am in the best mood ever after my Jayhawks won the national championship game last night. So exciting. Before we get started, we've got a great giveaway to give away. Lizanne, you want to talk to us a little bit about what we're giving away at the end of this?
Yes, today our gift at the end of the show will be a spouse serve planner. And Stephanie was just sharing with us that this is created by a military spouse for the military spouse community. So it is a planner that is specific to all the crazy details of your military life. And she is a mil-spouse entrepreneur that has come through some of the programs from the Rosie Network. So really excited to be supporting a fellow military spouse and excited to hear about these programs that helped her build her business. And you guys know how this works. Throughout the webinar, we'll be taking your questions, your comments. Stephanie is really excited to talk with all of you, so please feel free to ask. And at the end, we'll be gathering everyone who commented or asked a question, and those are the names that will be entered to win the Spouse Serve Planner.
And I just got mine. I just got mine in the mail. It's awesome. It's amazing. So yeah, definitely post a comment or a question.
We're going to start with a pretty easy question, I think, Stephanie. I mean, this is a real softball. Tell us about yourself. And then we also want to know, why did you create the Rosie Network?
Well, I'm sure I won't bore you with the long story of why I created the Rosie Network, but I'll tell you, I grew up in the military. My father was a Vietnam veteran. He did over 20 years. And when he retired, he opened up a small music store in California. He was a musician. So we were an enlisted family with lots of kids. It wasn't until I was a young adult when, my dad and mom shared, Stephanie, we literally lived below the poverty level. And your dad worked 2 jobs. And one of those was playing in bands and playing in the officers club and installations around the globe. We lived twice overseas. But so he opened up a music store in California, and I just fell in love with working in the store after school and on the weekends, doing inventory, doing sales, doing, all that kind of stuff. So I think I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug at a younger age. So fast forward to as an adult, I became a military spouse. I married Tom Brown, who at the time, I think he was a lieutenant or anyway, something. So long ago, I don't remember. But he was stationed at the Pentagon, and I lived in the DC area, and we just happened to meet, and we were married a year later, and he got orders to take command overseas. And that was where it all began for me. So, and then of course, I've raised 2 boys in the military, but I owned a business when I met Tom. And it's funny because I made more money than he did. And my business was in my career, what I went to college for, right? What I studied for. And so I really had the absolute ideal job, but then I fell in love with this, with this man, and ended up selling it and then following him overseas. And I thought, I'm not going to have a problem. I'm just going to, take my business with me. I can do this anywhere. And I very quickly realized that was a lot more difficult to do. And I sort of, became like so many other military spouses, unemployed, underemployed. I mean, I couldn't even get a job in the NEX. Tom was Navy. He did 30 years in the SEAL teams. He joined the Navy to become a SEAL, and retired 30 years later. So it was really depressing and frustrating. And so that was a little bit about me, and kind of also what birthed the whole reason behind the Rosie Network. It was kind of that experience. But yeah, I'm a military brat, and I guess now technically I'm a veteran widow, but and a military mom.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit about the basis of the Rosie Network. For those folks who don't know what it is, what's your elevator pitch of what the Rosie Network consists of?
Wow. Well, we empower active duty veterans and military spouses with the tools and resources that they need to successfully launch or grow a business. That is what we do. We don't do hiring. We don't do resume interviews. We don't do any of that. Our expertise is strictly self-employment, entrepreneurship, small business ownership. That's all we do. And it really began, behind not being able to get a job, not being able to restart my business, and the constant moves, PCSing 11 times over our married career, having 2 kids. Having a traditional job, especially with his work schedule, travel, etc. It was almost impossible. It was very difficult. I mean, we would spend more money on childcare than I was able to make at some entry-level job, because, companies would look at me and go, "Oh yeah, you just moved here, and I see you lived at 2 other, you're military, right? And how long are you going to be here?" All that everybody's familiar with. So I, realized that self-employment, that the only way I was going to feel fulfilled myself. And after years of hearing from and watching families struggle, not just financially, but watching military spouses kind of lose their identity and, become frustrated, and, when is it my time, and all that kind of stuff, I thought, wow, we need to really start thinking outside the box. How can we help spouses pave their own way, create their own solution, and become entrepreneurial? And that was, really, it's been 10 years, officially 10 years this May. So yay. Yeah. If you would ask me 10 years ago when I first started, and it all began with Rosie's List, if I had that it would be what it is today, I would have said you were crazy. But it's not something Stephanie built alone. That's for sure. So
yeah,
I think everybody has an employment story like yours. Just about everybody. I know I couldn't get a job at Kmart in Guam. I was overqualified or underqualified, or for everything. Lizanne, I know you've got a story about how you went into business for yourself. Will you tell us about that?
Yeah, I see that we have some shared sympathy in the comments too. Stacey Vance saying that it's just hard being a military spouse, and sometimes you need that second job. My story is so similar to Stephanie's, and I was just kind of nodding, and I feel like you're speaking to my heart, that I had a great job when I married my husband too, and I also made more than him. And then we moved to a remote duty station in North Carolina where there was 0 job opportunities for me. So I stayed home, worked on my master's, thinking this is it, like the next duty station, I'm going to get a great job with my master's degree. But our next station was overseas, and spouse employment opportunities are extremely limited. And I was unemployed for about 6 years straight. It wasn't until our 4th duty station when I finally started looking around and realizing this is going to be a pattern, and the pattern will not break until I do something different. I can't keep looking for a new job and a new opportunity and starting fresh every single time. So I think those of you who are watching, if you've had a similar struggle looking for employment, or if you have, like me, ended up in the freelance world. I became a freelance writer about 6 years ago, and I've gone from there. I know that Tessa can really relate to that part too. If you have done freelancing or if you have thought about entrepreneurship, then this is the conversation for you. We want to hear your questions and your experiences. So I guess I share all of that, Stephanie, just to share that we keep hearing again and again that entrepreneurship is a solution for military spouses. And I know that you've been studying this for years. So why do you think entrepreneurship is such a great answer for mil spouse life? And why does it appeal to so many of us?
Yeah. I first of all, if you really want to see some numbers, a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, the Rosie Network, in partnership with USAA and Amazon, we did a nationwide survey on, to military spouses who were self-employed business owners or even budding entrepreneurs, and we asked them a bunch of questions, and you can visit our website and see, some of the income, different types of businesses, where they were located, all that kind of really cool data to sort of paint this picture of entrepreneurship for military spouses. And, we all think, well, it's portable. And the answer is yes, it's far more portable career than many. Certainly, having to work in an office or brick and mortar, if you're lucky enough to get hired by a company that's got offices all around the country, and they're willing to help you out, then you've won the lottery. But it's not that easy. So, it is really the ability to create, first of all, envision your own success, right? What does success mean to you? And then create that in your own schedule around your kids or your spouse or your location. Is really the freeing part of it. I mean, entrepreneurship's not easy, but people are often overly intimidated by the word and the thought. That means I have to invent something, right? Or I have to create something. No, entrepreneurship comes in so many different, there's so many different types of entrepreneurship. And I was asked this question very early on when we began to develop our program, Service to CEO, in partnership with California State University. They said, well, Stephanie, military spouses pretty much just those that are self-employed or selling Tupperware or Pampered Chef and stuff like that. And I remember going, well, A, I don't know if that's the case, but B, so, if that's what they're doing and that is helping them and their families. But I remember that being asked, well, are you going to open it up, service to CEO to those spouses? And I said, yeah, why wouldn't we? I kind of look at that sort of experience as the gateway, the gateway drug, to, to being a small business owner, because you learn a lot. You learn customer service, you learn inventory, you learn invoicing, you learn, marketing and sales. But still we're here to embrace any spouse that says, you know what, I'm done trying to do this 9 to 5. My wife or my husband are, going off to training 6 months out of the year or deployed. It's just too hard and depressing. Then self-employment or remote work, being an independent contractor, maybe just right for you. You mentioned writing. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many publications are looking for content creators, or, share your story and you can start a blog and then you can sell advertising on that blog. There's so many creative ways. It's really just endless. It's really endless. So I think that's part of the reason why it appeals to military spouses. And the portability of it, you're creating your own schedule. When, our Riveter, which I'm sure everybody knows about, those are 2 military spouses that started that company in their dining room table when their kids were taking a nap. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all need to start a business that we're going to go in front of Shark Tank and try to get a deal. That would be sheerly terrifying. But hey, it tells you that if they can do it, then you can too. And it really just depends. And hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about it But it really just depends on what success means to you. What do you want to do with it? Is it, and being willing to step outside your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
So we do have a comment, Stacey Vance. It's so hard to get started. It really is. And I think for a lot of folks, like you said, entrepreneurship is intimidating. And people do think, oh, I have to have an idea, or I have to have this, or, I have to be a certain way. What would your advice be, Stephanie, for how do folks get started? Where should they start?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's when you think entrepreneurship, like the big picture, it's almost like looking at this elephant, right? And how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. So it's really about, determining what it is you want to do. What makes you happy? Is it serving other people? Do you have a skill or a passion for serving other people in lots of different capacities? Is it, a craft or something that you create or you're really good at? Things like that. Okay, so how can I take that hobby, that passion, and turn it into a small business? I mean, a lot of younger spouses have really grown up with this incredible thing called the internet and e-commerce and stuff like that, or becoming an independent contractor, right? Doing side jobs like writing or photography or, music lessons or babysitting, dog walking. I mean, you name it. But you have to enjoy it. I mean, I think there has to be some element of it that you really enjoy. But I will tell you what you do is, my advice is, determine what it is. And it might not be totally solidified in your brain. Don't be afraid of that. Don't try to make this great grand plan in your brain before you get started. Don't wait for the perfect time. Well, when the kids graduate from high school, or when they go off to college, or when my husband retires, stop telling yourself that, because there never is a perfect time. Start the inner conversation now and start writing it down. Start researching. So let's just take an example, right? So let's say you want to do, give me an idea, guys. I mean, I'm sitting here going, pet grooming, pet walking, but if there's another idea you have in your mind.
Mine was starting a blog. I knew that I eventually wanted to write a book, and I figured a good way to do that was starting a professional blog, and that led to the freelance writing. And so they all kind of connected to each other, but
so write it out, put it down, right? Put it down in a journal, create a journal, and write down what I call your BHAG. BHAG being big, hairy, audacious goal. And again, it doesn't, it doesn't have to be own the world or conquer the world. Some people just want to feel a sense of accomplishment, bring in enough money so, maybe the family can go on vacation once a year. So don't compare yourself to everybody else. That's a huge problem, I think, in our community. What makes you happy and what do you want to achieve, right? Draw that out, sketch that out in your journal, and then start looking at others who are doing that. Okay. So if you want to start a line of skincare that it was a recipe back from your great grandmother, start looking into and doing research. Who else has this? What is similar? She's a writer or she started a blog. There are all these blogs out there. Which ones do I like? Start making a pros, cons. I like this. I don't like that. What's a pro of starting it? How much money is it going to cost me? If it's going to cost me anything. What's a con, right? It's going to take, how much time is it going to realistically take? All those kinds of things. Start writing it down. If you hang in there 6 months to a year later, when you go back, you get to look inside, in this journal and go, look at where it started. This is crazy. And so once you identify what it is you want to do, and for the ballpark, again, you don't have to have all the details laid out. That's part of the journey. And those details will change as you start your business and grow it, right? So if you have this pet care or pet walking, you look at who else is out there in my market. Who's providing it now? What do they charge? Where are they located? What do I like about what they're doing? How can I do it differently? How can I do it better? It's not always cheaper. Cheaper is not always best. But what can I do it better? What makes me unique, right? And I would argue a lot of people prefer to patronize and support military spouse-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses. We know that statistically. So that's one of the things that makes you unique, right? Don't be afraid to share that. So find that niche, what makes you different? And then start writing that out. What makes me different? My hours are different. Whatever, I'm not an expert in the field of pet care, but then you can also, once you start that, you can also go, well, what is the next thing I want to do? Well, maybe you start a line of products, of pet care products, right? Maybe you have another military spouse girlfriend that is an incredible artist and she does all these great little drawings. Maybe you start a set of cards that you can give out as gifts to your customer. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? It just starts to mushroom, but it all begins with that you. It begins with you going, what makes me happy? What challenges me? What gets me excited? What am I really good at? And that's the first step. Do not give up and get down on yourself if you don't achieve the big, hairy, audacious goal. You break it up into small, right away. You break it up into small, bite-sized pieces. I had a mentoring session with one military spouse, and she had created this incredible product, right? Perfect for military families. And she said, Stephanie, I just get so overwhelmed every single day. I find myself just putting it off and procrastinating, and then I get down on myself. And I said, let's create a list. What do you want to accomplish today? One thing, one small thing. What do you want to accomplish in a week? What do you want to accomplish in a month? So you create this path, this journey, and keep it all logged and track it. And anyway, I could talk about this all day. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So don't give up. Don't be intimidated. Entrepreneurship is just a word. You can call it anything you want. You are in control of your destiny. And I'll tell you, I'll stop with this. One huge upside for me was how my kids started looking at me. I went from being the sandwich maker, and the nag to do the chores and all that. And, and it definitely, being unemployed and being depressed and resentful impacted my marriage. It was hard because I was like, what? We're moving again? This is not fair. Getting out the violin. When I started the Rosie Network and I brought in people around me that I knew were smarter than me, and that's another tip. But I started this whole journey. The first time I was asked to do this big keynote in Sacramento, and I'll never forget I flew my youngest up there with me, and he turned to me and he goes, "Are you nervous, Mom?" And I said, "No, I'm talking about something I love, and I'm talking to my tribe, people I love." And he goes, "Wow, you're an entrepreneur, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, I expect brave and awesome things from you because you're an entrepreneur." He was 12 years old. It was probably the biggest compliment I ever got from my 12-year-old son. It's really, you're in the driver's seat. So, and there's nothing you can't do.
I love that. It's so inspiring to think of the journey that way, that that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step and everything, that you don't have to have all those enormous goals accomplished within your first year of establishing a business. You had Daniela agreeing with you that it's so important to go after what makes you happy and never give up, because there is so much talent within our military community. And I absolutely agree with that.
There really is. There really is. And again, you may think to yourself, well, I just do this. I just do this. That's really not all that impressive, and people aren't going to want to buy it, or da, da, da. Don't talk to yourself like that. You know, we don't want other people to talk to us that way. Sometimes we talk to ourselves the worst, you know, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. It is just not true. I mean, I think somebody posted in there, go after what makes you happy and never give up, right? That's what we just heard. Go after what makes you happy and never give up.
But I like what Julie brought up here. She's running her own business, and she says it's forced her to get out and learn more every time they go to a new PCS station. And she's an introvert, so she has to force herself to meet people and get out there because she wants her business to succeed. And thank you, Julie. I think that really acknowledges that there are challenges of being an entrepreneur. None of us are good at every single thing. We're all going to have our strengths and our weaknesses. So Stephanie, how can the Rosie Project help with some of those? I'm sorry, the Rosie Network. How can it help with some of those weaknesses and those struggles that we have in the early stages of entrepreneurship?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. And I think somebody else posted, you know, where do I even begin? So that's where the Rosie Network and our program can help. Our program is called Service to CEO. Again, it's available to transitioning active duty, veterans, and military spouses. And we even have groups that are just military spouses. They're virtual. We used to do it in person, and then COVID hit, and we suddenly just blew up as soon as we started offering our course, and it's free. Our course, Service to CEO, virtually, right? So now I literally watched a graduation presentation from someone in, where were they? England, right? So literally from all over the globe. We help you with that. So it's 8 modules, and we start with Entrepreneurship 101, really not, some of the logistics, like what are the terms you should familiarize yourself with, how to register your business, the different types of licenses that you're going to need, depending on the type of business. So food, what's that process? What are those expenses, et cetera, versus another kind of business. So there are really 8 modules that over all these years we've identified as the core curriculum for any entrepreneur. Whether you just have a concept in your head, come to Service to CEO, right? If you just have a concept and you're not really sure how to flush it out and who your market is, who's your customer, how to price it, Service to CEO has all the tools to help you figure that out, right? From how to conduct a customer survey, an interview, to doing market research, all of that kind of stuff is all built into the program. And then to whether you have an existing business and you want to expand it. I can't tell you how many businesses that are already, existing that come to us and I don't really need this. I already have a business. I just want to know how to grow it. And then they go through and they tell us, wow, like I didn't realize so much that you covered. I never did. I never created a mission statement. How are you going to sell me your services if you don't have a mission statement? Why do you exist? Why should I pick you over somebody else? What makes you special? Most customers buy because of, the why, right? It's not always like the cheapest, the fastest, the best. There's something that we want to, there's a reason we want to patronize you versus someone else. So we help you through all that process. And then, how to create a profit loss, some of the financial basics, right? What can you write off as a business owner? Or as an entrepreneur? I mean, there's a lot of things you can write off if you're self-employed that you can't otherwise, turn that hobby into a business and you'll be shocked at what you can write off. We talk about different entity formations. What's a C Corp? What's an S Corp? How do you start a nonprofit? What do you have to have in place legally for a nonprofit or a for-profit? We cover all of that. We cover trademark, copyright, what are the differences, how you can do it yourself. Should you do it yourself? And then we bring in, and that's where we bring in all of our legal minds. And throughout the whole process, you're creating a pitch deck. So, so if you don't know what a pitch deck is, you can Google it, but is one of the most resourceful tools that every entrepreneur should have. And you can have different versions of a pitch deck. You can have a version of a pitch deck for an investor or a bank or customers. So we help you create that pitch deck throughout the entire process. And then at the very end, you present it. You present your pitch deck, and we videotape it, and we share it out to the world. So, and then when you graduate, you are welcome to join our national alumni program, where you can, continue to network and support and collaborate alongside military spouses and military entrepreneurs all around the globe. And it is free. It doesn't cost you a thing.
Amazing.
Remarkable. One of the things, Stephanie, that I think keeps coming up, and whether we're saying the word or we're not saying the word, but it's this idea of mentorship. And I think, you alluded that you were mentoring somebody. Can you talk to our audience about the importance of finding a mentor? I think that's one of the most important things in getting started and staying active and learning and growing. Talk to us about mentorship.
Yeah, it's well, there is a statistic that, and I could be misquoting, but it's pretty staggering. Like 90% of startups that don't have a mentor fail within the first 3 years. So that alone should tell you how important a mentor is. I have several. A mentor is different than a business coach. So let's just put that out there. Business coach is typically someone you pay. There's typically a contract, right, for services, time, and cost. A mentor is almost always free. But it's finding a mentor that doesn't have to be in your field. Doesn't have to be in your field. So don't think, hey, you're doing food service, you've got to find a mentor who's in the food business. It can be a mentor who knows a lot about marketing. It can be, a mentor who knows about, where to go to get funding, or you know what I mean? Or it can just be a cheerleader. Here's some critical things about a mentor, because again, I've had several and I still have mentors. Find somebody that, you trust. Right? Find someone who you trust to tell you that your baby is ugly, as they say, your business baby, not your real baby. And find someone that you are going to be open with, and that is going to give you honest feedback or questions that are going to make you think and challenge yourself. When we started out, I had time I used to mentor. I would set aside at least an hour for each one of the folks going through service to CEO. I literally cannot do that anymore. And I think that is the thing I miss the most, because I love sitting one-on-one, especially with military spouses, and going, ooh, and letting my brain percolate and going, oh my gosh, but finding a mentor is massive. And you can also become a mentor, right? I mean, you get in this life what you put out. We require mentoring sessions in service to CEO. We require a minimum of 3. We partnered with Veterati, which is an online platform, and our own mentor, entrepreneur experts and mentors are part of Veterati, a segmented part of Veterati just for the Rosie Network. And you have to have, and we hear amazing feedback, but you have to do the 3 sessions with the mentors in our program to graduate. But, it can be any kind of mentoring. It doesn't have to just be one, it can be multiple mentors. But that leads me to building a team. Don't do this alone. And a team does not have to mean employees. Everyone goes, I can't afford to hire a team. It doesn't have to be employees. It can be, an advisor, somebody that is phenomenal at social media, and you guys have known each other, and she becomes an advisor or part of your unpaid team, like just a mentor or a friend. Build that team and be a part of somebody else's team. If we all stepped up to help each other in that way, just imagine what we would accomplish, right? Imagine what we would accomplish.
Absolutely. I like to think of, for at least in my life, mentorship is like a little dining room table of people that I invite in to sit and to be part of my life for different reasons. I've got like a mommy mentor, a woman who is just a phenomenal mother, and I love the way that she parents her kids. I've got a business mentor, somebody who's really ambitious and helps me check all of those things and those goals. So I think it's important to have a team, like you said, which is so helpful. We do have an audience question I want to skip to real quick. Stacy Vance talked a little bit about how it's difficult to get started and to get, a spouse on board, especially with a new endeavor. She wants to know what qualifies a business as being self-employed. Is there a certain dollar amount that the business has to make for that threshold?
No, nope, not at all. No, and you don't have to make any money to be self-employed. I mean, hopefully that's not the plan long term. But you don't have to make any money to be self-employed. You simply, check that box when you go to file your taxes. Now, I'm not a tax expert, but I will tell you that is definitely one of the most important things that we cover in Service to CEO. We bring in tax experts to, and every state is different. Mm-hmm. Every state is different. So make sure you know what your state requires. It costs. Just so back to that question, to be self-employed, you don't have to basically do anything. I mean, you don't have to have a license. You don't have to register your business. I recommend that you do that. And if you can read English and write, then you can file your business yourself. You do not have to pay some third party to do it. When I filed the paperwork in the state of California for the Rosie Network as a nonprofit, I didn't know anything about running a nonprofit ever. But I went on the state's website and I followed the instructions, and lo and behold, they even provided a link or a sample template for articles of incorporation. So what did Stephanie do? She downloaded that template straight from the state's website, filled it out, and use that to file it. You don't have to pay somebody to put together an articles of incorporation. If you are self-employed, right? So let's say you have a hobby and you just sell that hobby. That's something that you make at different craft fairs. You're self-employed. Everything you purchase you can write that off. Now you have to hit a certain threshold in order for that write-off to, but if you buy a computer for your business, for example, or you buy a printer for your business, or those supplies, all of that is, if you do your taxes yourself, or if you have a professional, just make sure you keep track of all that. If you have one room in your home that is exclusively for, like I do, that is exclusively for your business, you may even be able to write off part of your mortgage, part of your rent, utilities, cell phone, things like that. Talk with talk with a tax professional or find out for sure. There's so many free resources on your state website. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mary Nelson here is agreeing, and she's already doing exactly what you mentioned. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah, and I think that really
one tip.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. One tip. If you are self-employed, please, please, please do this one thing. Keep your personal money separate from your business money. Even if you take $100 to open up a small business account, like Navy Federal offers small business accounts, Navy. So I'm sure the Army, PenFed, keep that money separate. Okay. Please keep that money separate.
For sure. It definitely makes bookkeeping easier, and it's more legal. So it's a good thing to do. But I wanted to say that I love what you're saying about mentorship, and also the process of officially incorporating your business, even if it is, like you said, a hobby or something that you're kind of already doing on the side. Because I think there's just a mentality shift when you tell yourself, oh, I'm just doing this as a hobby. This is just for fun. I think military spouses have such a tendency to undermine their own talents and their own strengths, and to kind of downplay the things that we're doing. And when you have mentors, it's people who believe in you when you aren't believing in yourself. At least that has been my experience when I'm like, oh, I'm just writing this little blog that might turn into a book someday, and your mentor is the one who's telling you, you already have a book here, you just have to edit it and put it together. So the same with incorporating. I was writing as a freelancer for a couple of years before my husband was the one who encouraged me to found an LLC. And I was like, I don't need that. That's too complicated. That's too official. I just do a few little freelance articles here and there. And he was like, no, you're working. It's a business. You need to value your time and you need to have an official label. And when I did that, it was just this huge mentality shift that I'm self-employed now. I'm a business owner. Even if I'm the only employee in that business, it really does make a huge difference. So,
hey, and you've got business cards, and guess what? Your title can be anything you want. You're CEO. Imagine how that looks on a resume versus, hi, I've been unemployed for 5 years. Or it's just don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. That's another thing I see a lot. Well, I'm not as, so-and-so, she's really smart and she's really good at that. And I think, you have, your own unique talents and skills and passions that are just uniquely you. So, don't do that, because there's no easier way to get bring yourself down. I don't hire anybody that isn't, smarter and more capable than me. And trust me, that's not much of a bar. And when you bring people to you, that's, keep that in mind. It's when I started this out, it was just me. And then I talked another military spouse in our community to come along and join me on this crazy adventure. I was going to build this Rosie's List, the largest, compete with Angie's List and Craig's List and but just for, our community. And at one point, and we're still incredibly close friends, she turned to me, and we were doing like the national VFW convention somewhere out of state. And she turned to me and she goes, this is a lot of work. And I said, yep. But it put in as much or as little as you want into it. It's really up to you. Don't fall prey to comparing yourself and getting down on yourself and convincing yourself that you're not good enough, because, oh, heck yeah, you are.
Well, thank you. And I heard you mention Rosie's List, and we haven't explained that yet for our audience. So can you please enlighten us about what is the Rosie's List, and why should all of our viewers who are business owners and military spouses be on Rosie's List?
So if I told you that you could find pretty much anything that you needed or wanted, from a plumber to an orthodontist, babysitter, that dog walker, pet care provider, or handcrafted item, or pretty much anything that you can possibly imagine, you could find that in one place that you had confidence that those businesses listed were all veteran or military spouse owned. Would you use that?
Yes, I would.
Well, that's what Rosie's List is. It is the place that you can go and find from amongst tens of thousands of businesses, small, medium, large, from service providers, product providers, combination of both, writers, independent contractors, whatever. And all of them their military affiliation is verified. Right? So we verify they're a spouse, or they served or are serving. So you can go on rosieslist.org, and right now you can still go on rosieslist.org. But it's actually being rebuilt. It launched in 2014. It was custom built, and it literally grew so quickly that the database wasn't capable of keeping up with the number of businesses in there and the number of searches. So late last year, we took it down. Excuse me. We took it down, and we're rebuilding the whole thing, and we're incorporating a shopping cart. So you can go on there now and purchase the spouse planner directly from the military spouse that sells them, or 20 other businesses. The money goes directly to them, and you get your product. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that it will be ready Q2 of this year. Because of the sheer number of businesses that we have in there, it is a very arduous process. So rosieslist.org, if you have a business and you want to register your business, then go to rosieslist.org and just fill out the simple little form, and we will keep you posted on the progress. But I think at last count, right before we took it down, we had around 60,000 businesses in there. So right now we have one person that's going through each and every business, to make sure they're still in business, that we can update that business, et cetera. And then getting it in getting the shopping cart integrated into the platform is being done.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and it's free to create a profile, and it's free to search. So there's no monthly fee, you got to pay. But we're really, really hoping that that'll be ready this year. The technology partner is the same partner that built the e-marketplace that I'm involved with, that Rosie's involved with AFIS and the Air Force and Army. Mm-hmm. So we're excited.
Very cool. You have another very fun initiative that I want to talk about. Tell us about Kidpreneur Camp.
Oh, yeah. So, kids are resilient too.
They are. And of course, April is the month of the military child. So we have to talk about it.
Yay. Clap and hello out there. And thank you for your service to all of our military kids all across the globe. I was one. So, I can kind of relate. And now as a mom. So yeah, it's a happy military kid month. So Military Kidpreneur started when we got a lot of questions from some of the folks going through our program or interested in our program. Hey, can my teenage daughter is doing this with me? Can she join me? Questions like that, or hey, my son, he's in, I think our age group is open to all military connected teens in grades 8 through 12. So, we just kept getting a lot of inquiries and interest. And we came together as a team and said, we got to do this. We got to do this. We have to, raise up and support our military kids. And I tell you, it was one of the funnest things that we've ever done. Just meeting and hearing these little people. I say little people. They're not always little. But I mean, just seeing the brains, the gears going in their head, and the passion and the unique and amazing ideas that they have going on. But what they don't have is what a lot of entrepreneurs don't have. They have the passion, and they are the experts at their widget or their service or their idea. They may not know the business part of it. That acumen isn't necessarily ingrained in all of us, right? Like how to set up a business, how to go out there, business insurance. Do I need it? What is it? All that kind of stuff. And we cover all of that in the Kidpreneur Camp, which it was so fun and so successful. Last year, it was kind of our pilot program that we decided, when we asked the kids and others, should we do it again? And it was like, oh yeah, do it again. So if you're interested and you want to sign your kid up or learn more about it, I can see the banner below is the link, the rosienetwork.org, Kidpreneur-camp. Yeah, so we hope to get, we'll do at least one. If we get enough interest, we'll break them up into multiple camps. But our upcoming issue of Military Entrepreneur Magazine, which we publish, is going to have a whole story on the Kidpreneur Camp. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. You know what else is fun? Giving away some prizes. I think it's about that time. Lizanne is going to do our Wheel of Names today, which is so exciting for me. It always feels like a Christmas miracle when it works for me. So she's going to go ahead and do that. And while she's teeing that up, Stephanie, is there anything else you want our audience to know? You've been so helpful today.
I hope so. I mean, I would leave you with, a couple of thoughts. I think I said before, don't wait for the perfect timing. There is no such thing. Mm-hmm. Take that leap of faith. Just start the first step. Okay. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Please. I mean, that's one of the greatest things I think about the Rosie Network, emphasis on the word network, is that we've created this tribe of like-minded from just folks that are just percolating ideas to people who have achieved a lot of success. And we're all in it to support each other. Be a part of a network. Build that team of mentors, advisors. If you're a military spouse business owner, join a chamber like the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, which I'm also involved in, milspousechamber.org. It's free. We do a monthly, just for spouses, we do a monthly webinar with Hiring Our Heroes and the Small Business Administration. If you follow our social media, I think it's Facebook/the Rosie Network. That's hard to remember. We post all of those. We do a monthly webinar, bring in subject matter experts and talk about different things. It's all entrepreneurship. Don't be willing to settle, I guess is what it is. And don't be afraid, because you're not alone. You've got organizations like PCS Grade and these two amazing women here and so many others across the country that, want to see you succeed. So be a part of something.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Stephanie. And you've definitely inspired some of our viewers today. When you were talking about the Rosie's list, Shelby said she already signed up. Yay! And I think Stacy Vance said she's interested in the Kidpreneur camp, which I just learned about that resource myself, and I too am interested in it. So I think that's amazing. And just finally wanted to check that address for the Milspouse Chamber of Commerce. Is that correct? All right. There you go, Mary.
And you can get, if you have a business, and we launched the first ever certification, industry standard certification for military spouse-owned businesses out there. Like a veteran-owned, woman-owned, service-disabled, minority-owned. There is now a military spouse-owned enterprise certification, which, by the way, is accepted by Disney, Johnson & Johnson, CVS, USAA, and many, many others. And that list is just growing. So
that's awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to...
At the table, baby. At the table.
I'm going to go ahead and give away one of those spouse serve planners that Stephanie mentioned earlier. Like we said, this is a planner designed by a military spouse for our military community. And so let's see who today's winner will be. And it looks like Angela Atwood. Congratulations.
Amazing. Angela, please message the Facebook page, so we can get you your prize. Stephanie Brown, the Rosie Network, an incredible woman, an awesome human being. Thank you for being on with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Really, I appreciate you guys, all the work that you do. I love PCS Grades. Really excited for the Rosie Network to be, working alongside and collaborating with PCS Grades. If you're listening, get out there, look them up, be a part of PCS Grades. It's really an invaluable resource for our military families. And again, thank you for having me. And hopefully I have inspired at least one person out there to.
I think so. I think you got some
way more than one.
Good. I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Well, speaking of resources, I want to invite you all back next week. We're going to be doing another weekly webinar, and this one is part of our moving series. We are continuing to interview moving companies and actual truck drivers and the people who are in your homes for a military move. So next week, our session is called Just Tell Me What to Do. So excited for that. So we'll see you here next week. And until then, this too shall PCS.
This too shall PCS. I love that.